Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta at Taj Wellington Mews in Bombay, and my guest today, Ratan Tata, in very unusual times on a very special day. In fact, we have a candlelit right behind you because this is the second anniversary of the attack.
Terrorist attack.
Yes. And I understand your reluctance to walk in the corridors of the Taj today. It's all very fresh and raw still.
Thank you for honoring that wish. And thank you very much for having this session today. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Ratan. And I also said unusual times. You know why? Because there is a certain murkiness in the air right now, particularly when it comes to government-business interface.
Yeah, it is a murky time, you're right. And it's a confusing time for me because just a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting sort of on top of a summit or a mountaintop with President Obama showering praise on what we had done, talking of our maturity, talking of our having emerged and not being an emerging force. And then we have somewhat slipped into a morass of a series of allegations, unauthorized tapes being flooded, the media going crazy on alleging, convicting,
Executing.
That's what he wanted to say. Literally character assassination, the whole thing. And in fact, I think in so doing, there's been a smokescreen behind what is really the so-called scam, which really is out-of-turn allocation of spectrum, hoarding of spectrum by important players for free, and things of this nature. So I think these are bad times. I wish the government would take a stand, bring order to the thing, have an investigation, book people who are guilty of something, but stop this sort of banana republic kind of attack on whoever one chooses to attack on a basis unsubstantiated, even before the person has what I consider every Indian's right, namely to be considered innocent until found guilty in a court of law, not on the street, not in this way.
And certainly not in whispers, in dark corridors. If I use an expression you used the last time we had a conversation, 6 years back. Yeah. You said things still happen in dark corridors that in Delhi.
At 11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night, yes. Well, I always say Delhi works on Dubai time, so 9:30. So what is it about this murkiness that's been particularly worrying you? You know, we've had a minister go in the last 3 weeks since Obama left. We've had a chief minister go. We've had a very senior member of parliament from the ruling party give up his position in the party, Suresh Kalmadi. We've had these tapes come out. Now we've had these new scandals. The CBI is raiding bankers and housing finance companies. I mean, the country just looks like a mess. The economy looks like a mess.
You know, it's a funny thing. You get into a stage where many of these things, I believe, have been sourced by vested interests who want to bring this about, have the connections to make it happen. What such people perhaps forget is there's the bigger issue of the nation. And very often, this kind of rumor-based or whisper-based courtroom, out-of-court, kangaroo court kind of issue is the outcome of persons wanting to settle scores, wanting to protect their own vested interests, things of this nature. We have a venerable judiciary system. We should, I think, as every Indian, want to protect it and ensure that it itself stands above any kind of act of corruption or interference. Because this is a very valuable asset that our country and our democracy has, and it should not be either bypassed, sidestepped, preempted.
Do you see some of that happening?
I think what's happened in the last few days is all outside the judiciary, basically. And I think the government and the judiciary should come down hard and say the proper place for consideration of wrongdoing is the court or an enforcement agency, whatever it is that has the right to prosecute, to investigate and prosecute. I'm afraid the media does not, and it cannot be in an uncontrolled way. The media can break a story, that's what it's there for. It can be the conscience keeper, but it also has a responsibility. Millions of people in India and elsewhere believe what they read in the newspapers or what they see on television is the truth. And I think that's a responsibility every media person has. And he or she needs to remember that that is a very important responsibility, because they're the opinion makers of any nation.
But Ratan, at the same time, the government has the power to tap somebody's phone, and that power has to be exercised with a great deal of caution. Supreme Court has set down that law very strictly. Shouldn't there also be responsibility to protect people's privacy? Yes. Even if they're involved in criminality, they can only use that information specifically in a case for prosecution, not.
I totally agree. I think the government also has a responsibility. The agencies also have a responsibility. They have been given a special right to be able to invade people's privacy for national security or for enforcement of law, whatever it may be. So they can do so. That additional power is a very special power which has to be exercised with a sense of responsibility. The content needs to be held for prosecution purpose and not to be misused, and certainly not to go out to everyone to have a field day with. There doesn't seem to be prosecution on the one end, and there doesn't seem to be confidentiality on the other. So, and perhaps as things will emerge, not even knowledge of how it was disseminated, nor knowledge nor admission of even having conducted such telephone tapping. So we're going to be in a dead man's zone on this, which I think is unfortunate. I just want to put what you have said quite rightly in juxtaposition to a feeling I have as an Indian, and perhaps a law-abiding Indian. I wouldn't even try to work my way out of a speeding ticket. That we have all to be proud of what we've done in India. We've got to be proud of our Prime Minister. We've got to be proud of the success we have. It's terrible if we as a nation destroy ourselves. And whoever is doing this kind of thing needs to really consider themselves not a hero of the nation, but in fact one of the villains who will bring down this nation after the good that is being done.
But that's very serious. Do you see the danger of that? Do you see that this murkiness can lead to crisis in that proportion?
If it's not controlled, I think yes. I use the word banana republic I didn't use it lightly.
I was coming to that because that's a very serious expression.
Banana republics are run on cronyism. People of great power wield great power. People of lesser power or people who have fallen out of power go to jail without adequate evidence, or their bodies are found in the trunks of cars. The danger is that you could degenerate into that kind of atmosphere unless the necessary parts of government play their role in upholding the law. And fine, let no one be above the law.
Do you see a lot of crony capitalism, since you use that expression?
Yes, I see the evidence of it. I am not in a position to say a lot of it, but it's certainly evident.
Will you say some of it?
Yes.
Will you describe some of the evidence that you've seen?
You know, you see large contracts being awarded. We see conditions of contracts becoming a little vague, implemented funnily. You see eligibility of capability being abused. You know, very often I wondered, there are some countries, for example, where favoritism doesn't apply, but you actually pay into the government if you get a contract. But the nice thing about those countries is that you get the best contractor, or you get the best, and then it becomes like a tax.
Right.
It's an open...
Like a surcharge.
And it's an open tax. So you pay in, not to individuals, but you pay into an agency. I'm not condoning that, but I'm saying that's one form.
At least that's that's corruption by tariff card.
Yeah. Here,
transparent.
You often, who pays the cost of giving something to a person with less capability? The customer pays, the consumer pays. Right. We get something that takes 5 years more to finish than it should. It costs 5 times more to complete than it should. So this is not the time that we should do this. This is the time that we should build our nation. And we should build it as many other emerging nations have built their nation on the basis of meritocracy.
How do you manage? How does the group of Tatas manage in this environment?
Well, we have endeavored to uphold a value system that has been part of our tradition. And we've been disadvantaged repeatedly in that we have lost projects, projects have been delayed, we have ingratiated ourselves in some cases with certain politicians, but we've stayed that course. And
you have ingratiated, or you have annoyed them?
Annoyed them, sorry.
Editing correction, sorry.
Sorry, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. And so, in that sense, we would like to keep the group ferociously protecting this one asset. That
do you sometimes pay if you have to pay?
We've never done so.
Never done so.
So.
Either on a tariff card or,
on the
as you say, in countries where the charge is almost like a surcharge.
No, we have not actually operated in those countries.
Right.
I myself introspected what happens here, which is a little fuzzy. Right. I can't say that it's something else, but what happens here that leads you to believe that there's an undercurrent that's subjective against what you see in some countries, which it's out in the open. And while I don't, as I said earlier, condone that, at least I see that the country gets the best that there is for that particular project.
That's less worse than this.
Yes.
Because I understand some of our chief ministers have started doing that now. They have open bidding, but whoever wins knows that a certain part of it has to be contributed someplace.
Well, that's off the table.
Right.
Whereas what I was talking of was,
Upfront.
it's in the invoice.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's out in the open.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's that transparent.
Yeah.
But Ratan, to come back to Banana Republic, would you say this to the Prime Minister, who, as you said, you respect?
Sorry?
Would you say this to the Prime Minister that our country is in the danger of becoming a banana republic or beginning to look like a banana republic?
I think if what has happened in the last few weeks is an indication of what can happen at any time, then we are really going down the route that would lead us into a banana republic. I would have no hesitation of telling the Prime Minister that, because I don't believe the Prime Minister is contributing to this. I think he should be concerned about the nation going in that direction.
And he's a good man.
And he's a tremendously good man. We're very lucky to have a Prime Minister like him. I want to say that I think it has hurt me to see what he's gone through in the past weeks, because
in Parliament.
Pardon?
In Parliament?
In Parliament, the pressure and the innuendos and the pressures he has been going through to resign and so on. Here's one person who is truly above any of the allegations thrown at him. A person who we are very lucky to have, because it is his face that has been the face of a transforming India. And it is this person who has commanded the respect of leaders in major countries. He doesn't deserve to have this kind of
and the Gandhi family has invested a lot of capital in building his image and sustaining it.
Yes. And I was very pleased to see Mrs. Sonia Gandhi supporting him the other day publicly, because he doesn't deserve this kind of thing.
The kind of criticism attacks that he's been getting.
Pressure in Parliament from, here again, I think there's a responsibility of parliamentarians to govern the country, not to adjourn Parliament every day to meet some.
Well, I mean, it's dangerous because there's 3.5 years still to go for this government. You start adjourn Parliament now. When do you? I think people take extreme postures, and that becomes tough for them to pull back. And both sides in this case. But Ratan, everybody knows you in the world of business and finance and investments. Do you find some of the investors and businessmen, particularly foreigners, have begun to get worried or begun to get wary of India right now?
I think this has just happened, so truthfully, I have no knowledge, but I have certainly a feeling that will be on everybody's lips. I would imagine the next time I go overseas, which would be in a couple of days, people are going to ask me, what is all this about? And there is this scam, there is that scam. People who now on the internet are well informed about India will think of India as a scandal-riddled country, which it is not. And you can easily make it that way. You can make everybody's mindset operate from one scandal to the other. You can make that, unfortunately, the fodder that the media needs to sell publications or to attract viewing on television.
Like, as we'd say in Hindi, a hum sab chor hai nation. All of us are thieves. Yeah.
That's right. And my experience has been, and not in the media but elsewhere, that usually the most noise comes from the people who have the most things to hide.
Right. Because noise is also a smoke screen.
That's right. So we should not fall into the trap of becoming a nation that's destroying itself by making everything into a scam. We should...
And this kind of... Are you saying that this is a kind of self-flagellation?
Well, it leads to, as we both said, smoke screens.
Right.
We should, in fact, be...
So the thieves get away.
That's right.
Behind this.
That's right.
And everyone else looks like a thief.
That's right.
Have you seen any increasing unpredictability in government policy or governance in India? Again, from the point of view of investor?
Yes, I think so. Again, I've always felt and said this openly, that what's behind it is not government policy. What's behind it is usually a vested interest spurring government policy. Or I think the FDI limits in a whole series of areas, some of them promised by the government, have not been done.
Insurance, for example.
Insurance is one main example. Retail is another. Retail hasn't been promised, but another area. Probably the banks are a third.
Right.
These are things that the free world has come to accept as areas of participation. India is a nation that everyone is looking at today. People want to invest, and there's, it's not unusual now for a foreign investor to say, when do you think the FDI limits on this will change? And you can't give them an answer, because there's nothing today standing in the way of the government doing that. So there are those areas that
worry you. But you find inconsistency or lack of predictability.
Telecom is another example. Through the years, through 10 years, if one really went and looked at whether the stated government policy has been implemented in the manner and spirit that it was intended, the answer is no. It's been modified several times to suit and protect individuals. Initially, it may have been the public sector incumbents, then it was one segment or another.
So you're saying that it's been changed at whim?
Usually, behind every change, behind every deviation, there's a vested interest.
Because I remember two things you said at our last conversation, referring to corridors. And I'll tell you the second one first. Okay. You said that we've come a long way, but things still happen in dark corridors in Delhi. And you said we don't know that much about them. But the other thing you said was that corridors of power don't matter as much as they used to, but they still matter too much. How have things changed in 6 years? Have they gotten better or worse?
In some ways they've gotten better, but I think in many ways it is worse.
Worse. Tell us some of those.
Well, there used to be greater adherence to policy. Today, the interpretation of policy has become very vague. So eventually, you find that you are arguing on something that the other side interprets in a manner that is so woolly and vague that you come away from that meeting thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this on any...
Do you have a specific example?
No, but let me give you an example that has been bandied and used in the press, because it will give me a chance to clarify.
Right.
As may be known to many or some, when Narasimha Rao was Prime Minister, an accord was signed in Singapore to form a joint venture airline.
Right.
JRD Tata was called by Mr. A.N. Verma to put up a proposal.
A.N. Verma was in Principal Secretary to Prime Minister. Right. The same job as T.K. Nair has now.
Right. And we went to Singapore Airlines and we We made great progress. We put a proposal before the government. There was no policy for FDI at that time. And a 50-50 joint venture was, I wouldn't say approved, but informally accepted. Then vested interests brought about a change. And the 50-50 became 40-60 as a new policy. No reason, no grounds given. Singapore Airlines accepted that to become a minority player. So 60-40, a new proposal was made. In this period of time, many governments also changed. I can't specifically say which happened when, but it started in Narasimha Rao's time.
Then Gowda.
Then Mr. Gowda. Then
Mr. Gujral.
Mr. Gujral.
In between that, 13 days of Mr. Vajpayee.
Yes. Okay. So then finally, we met every requirement that the government had. And then the last change was no foreign airline can participate. If you were a diaper manufacturer or a PCAP manufacturer, you could invest, but as an airline, you couldn't. And this is the kind of change, you see that as an example. You see cases where you just don't get any traction. Nothing happens. You know, the minister may tell you that I will do this, we will deal with this, but it doesn't
like
take
which
place.
one? I know you struggled with defense for some time.
Yes.
It's getting
there
better.
Again, it's an issue of not knowing where you stand.
Do you regret being in telecom? Do you sometimes say, I'm doing 20 things by telecom?
Yeah, because of the inconsistency of policy, because of the bias that exists. Yes, sometimes I do, but it's a great area. It's a wonderful thing that the government opened it up to everyone. And it's a travesty that policy got subverted in a manner that it helps a few, disadvantages others.
And when you can subvert policy, I'm now
Yeah.
sort of extrapolating and editorializing. When you have the freedom to subvert policy, then that opens the market for rent seeking.
For?
Rent seeking.
Maybe, yes. Theoretically, yes.
Has anybody asked you
No.
for money?
In
Telecom?
no.
In aviation, you made that remark that somebody sitting next to you said something.
Yeah, I said that somebody sitting next to me, what I said was not what the media reported.
Yes.
What I said was a fellow industrialist on a flight sitting on the seat next to me said, you know, why don't you pay the minister? You know that he wants 15 crores. No one had ever asked us for any amount of money.
I mean, those are very good times. 15 crores would be small change now.
Yeah, I realize that.
Good.
And the person said, you know, you people want the airline, don't you? Do you want the airline? Pay 15 crores. What does it matter to you? And I said, what I was trying to say in answer to a question that how do you avoid corruption, I said that it ought to be self-regulating. And I said, I told this person that you'll never understand, we just don't do that. He said, you're stupid. I said, no, I want to go to bed at night feeling that I have not succumbed.
And you've never done it?
And I have not done it.
Even for a mining lease anywhere?
No.
Because that is considered to be a normal thing now for mining leases.
No, it is not. On our part, no.
Tatas have never done it.
No.
But, and have you suffered because of that?
Yes. We have several mining leases that are still not extended.
Old mining leases. Old mining leases.
Old mining leases that have not been extended. Questions asked. We're an expanding steel company. We need we need iron ore in terms of a short supply. If we're allowed to expand in iron and steel, one would think, if one looks back at the 100-odd years that Tata Steel has been in existence, have we once exploited, usurped, in any way, the mining interests that we have? Have we profited? Have we destroyed the environment? Have we done any of those things? We have not. But we are the ones that are picked out, and it's unfortunate. And I think our effort has been to be good corporate citizens.
Another story floating on sort of the Delhi scuttlebutt is that the group of Tatas paid a sizable amount of money to Madhu Koda.
It's absolutely untrue. As chairman of Tata Steel, I can say that we have not done
directly or indirectly.
Directly or indirectly.
Did you get many leases in his time?
Actually, we have got no leases in his time, which should in itself be an indication of the veracity or the lack of veracity of the stories being circulated.
But you've heard this charge made.
Yes,
in whispers.
Yes, we've heard this charge. I believe Tata Steel has even been called and asked those questions by the enforcement agencies and have given them their response, which is the same as I've told you.
But this is the first public response.
Yeah.
Ratan, back to Delhi.
Yeah.
In fact, we're mostly in Delhi.
Yeah.
At which point did you realize that you needed someone in Delhi to work for you, and then you hired Neera Radia? How did that happen?
There was a time, I forget how many years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, that we found ourselves somewhat like just now, under attack of all kinds of statements being made. In fact, I'd go home at night wondering, where did these stories come from? You know, we haven't done this, we haven't done that. It would go on and on in this way. One example that I think you're aware of is the story about our having hobnobbed with the extremists in Assam.
Well, that story, if I may say so, was broken in the Express, in '96, I think, if I remember correctly.
No, the story was not broken. It was a prosecution by the Assamese government at that time.
Yes, Praful Mahanta's government.
Yeah, and I kept wondering, where is this coming from? So those kinds of issues led us to say that we need to protect ourselves and get our point of view across to the media. Every time we had tried to do something, it was a defensive move of rebutting or denying, and usually we got relegated to a back page in the newspapers. So we decided we'd go out and seek a firm to represent us, and that's how we in fact came together with Neera Radia, who formed this company.
But you know, if you look at these tapes, such as they are, I think what's caught public imagination is this idea that somebody, you can call her lobbyist, you can call her a PR person, you can call her a representative, is talking to people to influence a cabinet appointment.
I've listened to some of the tapes, and you know, I'm not a Delhi resident.
Good for you.
But I was going to say that to a great extent, I wonder whether if other people's phones were tapped, whether we'd get similar kinds of conversation. I don't know that she has the power to influence cabinet appointments or anything of this nature.
Well, I mean, certainly if anybody thought this could be done through journalists, I find it very touching. believe that journalists can call somebody and say, make so-and-so minister,
Yeah.
don't make so-and-so minister, you know. I've been in that business for much longer than most people now.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. As you said, I would have a hard time getting out of a speeding ticket.
But, you know, I really believe that Delhi is full of people whose life revolves around politics and what has happened today and what is going to happen and who does what in political circles, and so I really don't know.
Dark corridors at 11 p.m.
Correct. Now I think corridors are replaced by telephone lines.
Did this come as a shock to you?
Did what come as a shock?
These revelations, these tapes now, and
the tapes
and the emergence of the Tata name somewhere there.
Some of it came as a shock to me, but the tapes have been around for a long time in one form or another, or parts of it, and
you knew that they were there.
I knew that there were some tapes there. The fact that some included a conversation with me, I also knew was there, and once I realized that her phone had been tapped, I realized that we've had many conversations, as have many other people. And what bothers me is that we're living in a state in this country where that kind of thing happens on an official basis.
And then it gets leaked.
And
then it gets leaked.
And then that's a new phenomenon.
I mean, we are a funny country. We don't declassify something that happened 60 years back.
Yeah.
Nehru's letters to Kennedy, we have to get from Kennedy family's archives. Right?
I see. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just got them 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
Because Kennedy family's archives had them.
Okay.
We still have them classified in India.
Yeah.
And yet, we leak phone conversations that were recorded a few months back.
Yeah. But you see, I think the porosity in Delhi is also something of great concern. Telephone tapes get leaked. Official documents get leaked. Files disappear. I think there's a great deal that the government has to look internally to...
All that happens in corporate situations. Can you imagine what happens when the Pakistanis or the Chinese or the CIA and the rest get involved?
Yeah.
Have you raised it with the Prime Minister or Finance Minister yet?
Not to this extent.
But do you intend to?
Yes.
How would you do it?
Well, I think I would, at the present moment, like to do is just register my concern as an Indian that this is happening. I don't have enough knowledge to profess to the government what they should do. But I think as an Indian and as a caring Indian who's proud of my country, I feel I should register my...
Formally, will you write to them? Will you go see them?
I've been toying whether I write or try to speak. I think probably the better thing to do is to put on paper my concern and register my concern with them. I am not seeking anything myself from this. I'm not asking for anything to be done for me. I'm asking the government to consider that there's an Indian who has a concern for his country, that feels that this kind of thing shouldn't happen, and that our country is such that we should honor the responsibility that our agencies have, take the necessary prosecuting action that needs to be taken. But this free-for-all and this sort of media blitz with the seemingly evident agenda and what looks more and more like a smokescreen, one should put an end to that and get down to taking the culprits to justice and getting over with it.
Yeah, and also, you know, I mean, just flooding the environment with things that are very salacious
Yes.
and maybe interesting or to others,
Yes.
but of no real consequence. You know, I mean, if I can be naughty,
Yeah.
that little conversation between you and Neera, where, you know, you are showing wariness about getting into a black tie
Yeah.
dress, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and she's wearing a black gown.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's funny, but it's funny like a sequence in a movie.
Yeah, but is that...
What is the relevance?
Was that subverting policy? Was that, in fact, influencing the induction or removal of ministers? Was that toppling governments? You know, how is that of any relevance? And how do you correlate that to putting my picture on the cover and saying 2G scam? So that's the part that I think...
Did it matter to you who became telecom minister then?
From the standpoint of wanting to see, you know, policy and a level playing field, yes, it would matter. If you say, did I want to see Mr. Raja in or X? No, whoever we thought was going to be a...
But you had a history with Maran.
Yes. Unfortunately, because I think he's a very intelligent person. And I think we just had, if I might be honest, we seem to have a chemistry problem more than anything else. He's extremely intelligent, extremely sophisticated.
Will you give me your description of what do you think the scam is?
I really don't know. It started out, I thought, with the scam being Mr. Raja's alleged misdeeds.
Right.
Then it seemed that the scam related to Neera Radya's conversations with various people, which were more innuendos than anything else. And I haven't heard, and Mr. Raja's scam was the loss to the exchequer. I don't want to comment on the rights or wrongs, but the loss to the exchequer was computed on the basis of the 3G auction. The 2G spectrum was allocated before the auction, so it looks somewhat like a hindsight issue. But the media said that he robbed the nation of X.
$40 billion.
Yeah, okay. So
a little more than our defense budget, I suspect, for 1 year.
So if that is so, somebody will need to show that there has been a sort of visionary view before the event took place that caused him to cause that much loss to the exchequer. These are things that I think the media has blown up and exercised. And what it has become unclear to me, what really is the scam? Is it the manner in which he implemented the policy? If so?
Well, one is spectrum and the other is the licenses, which were obviously issued in a very, a very arbitrary manner.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm using an understatement.
Yeah, okay. And others feel so too, and I think TTSL is in court also on that.
Right.
So that should raise the question that all the accusations to Neera, they culminated in her client going to court.
Right.
So, it's not clear what the scam is.
Client going to court as a victim.
As a victim,
yes. Yes.
And not as a beneficiary.
So, give your solution to the government. What are the 3 things government should do now to calm down the situation and also to take it to the right conclusions?
Well, I think the government has a new minister in place who who I admire for his ability to think through a situation. There should be first a calming down of the tape should be, the government should take over the control of the tape, and there should be strictures on the media to certainly to use the tapes the way they've been using them. I think the government should institute a public inquiry on whatever they wish to do relating to the licenses, the manner in which they were implemented, the allotment of spectrum, and the far beyond the eligibility of certain players, so that should not be ignored. You know, strangely enough, in 2005, I was the person who advocated that spectrum should not be free.
Yes.
It upset Mr. Maran. And in fact, some of the operators made statements that if I had so much money, I should donate it to the Prime Minister's Relief Fund. But that
I think Sunil Mittal said that.
So at that time, I was the one that said spectrum was a scarce resource and should be paid for. I'm the only one who didn't get any spectrum.
Well, you also didn't pay the right guys, it seems.
So
you didn't quite understand the meaning of paying for spectrum.
no. So the point is that I think there should be an inquiry to go into what has really happened. It should go back to 99 or 2003, where policy were
Right.
embedded in certain areas. And whoever the ministers of the government were at that time, it should be a holistic view, because the industry deserves consistent policy, not a chop-chop policy kind of review, or what
Right.
Raja did and what Maran
And
did.
when that investigation happens, you will fully cooperate with it, I presume.
Of course, and if asked to.
Ratan, let me switch.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking of what's wrong. Talk about your growth.
Yeah.
1991 to now, your turnover has grown 40 times.
Yeah.
But nearly 65% of it is now overseas. It used to be less than 5%. Is that deliberate?
To some extent, it is. In some extent, it's happenstance. The reason that so much of our turnover is overseas is because we made 2 large acquisitions overseas.
Prime Minister Cameron told us that you are the largest employer in the private sector in Britain.
As it's turned out, yes, we are. Between Chorus
Right.
and
JLR.
JLR. JLR was an acquisition based strategically on a product mix that we wanted to have. Not the Jaguar part, but the Land Rover part. As both came together, we were obliged to take both, and I'm very pleased we took Jaguar, because I think it's a company with tremendous technology embedded in it, and it's been a very exciting period of time after we got over the downturn, which I thought was the weight around our neck, which would in fact sink us.
Was there a moment when you thought you had bitten off too much?
No, I actually never thought we'd bitten off too much. I just didn't know that we could get through the deep water of the downturn.
Right.
My main concern was all the initiatives that were in the pipeline, they should not stop, otherwise it'd come out of the downturn the same way as we went in. So I was keen that the product development plans, the R&D program should continue.
And 2611 came on top of that.
2611 came on top of that. That affected the hospitality end of our business. The steel market collapsed worldwide, arising out of this, and the banking system vaporized. So you got hit in the worst way from all sides.
What was the toughest night in that phase?
There was no toughest night, but there were several instances where we had to turn to Tata Sons to bolster, back us up, or to backstop a situation or give a guarantee. And Tata Sons also is not an infinitely deep pocket, and so I had in fact a double responsibility. One is to see these companies through, and secondly to make sure I didn't in any way endanger the security of Tata Sons. I think that was my toughest period.
And then the attack came on top of that.
And then the attack came on top of it, very emotional. And in fact, something that even now I find difficult to control in thinking back to the misery that was caused. Just such a needless, mindless
Loss of life.
loss of life, no concern.
Do you see a real danger of Indian entrepreneurs now actually preferring to go overseas than invest in India?
It's possible, because today we have the ability to go overseas, opportunities for investment are there, and countries are very investor-friendly, trying to bring investment in. India states that it wishes to be investor-friendly, but when you look at the fine print, sometimes you get stuck.
What was your experience in Investment Commission? I mean, if I may say so, it did not achieve that much.
No, it didn't. Well, it didn't achieve that much because...
You, Deepak Parekh, Ashok Ganguly are formidable people.
Well, we made... I think we produced two documents which are worthy of a view that I don't think they've ever had. We had about 140 specific recommendations to improve the investment climate. We've never heard one way or another that A has been approved, B has been disapproved, etc. It's just a black box into which it has gone. And I just think that it was one of these commissions that was established. We helped some companies. What was our locus standi and what was our span of authority? Zero. That apart, I think it was a terrific exercise in the opportunities that there were in India and pinpointing the areas that, the roadblocks that we could take away that would make that happen. And I think there is a frustration that it didn't do what it could do.
Did you share it with the Prime Minister?
Yes, the Prime Minister was very supportive, although it didn't go into details. It's been very supportive. And I think really wanted to see this happen. Oddly enough, the goal he set of having 10 billion in investments actually took place, but in humility I'd have to say not because of the Investment Commission. India itself just became more attractive.
Yeah, and actually 10 billion became a much smaller figure.
That's right.
Because the world changed so rapidly.
Yeah.
In fact, first we say the crore has died, now you'd say maybe a billion has died in investment terms.
That's right.
Right. So, Ratan, hopefully the murkiness will go and life will be back to normal. When that happens, what's next on the agenda?
Oh, I don't know, Shekhar. I think one way is not to make too many plans, because I think the world gives you an opportunity to be quite flexible. And I think as one grows older, one wants to have the luxury of being, more flexible and more tentative about what they would want to do. So as we go forward, what's next is an issue of what the country or...
I can see that defense and aerospace occupy your mind space right now.
Oh yeah, it's of considerable interest. Also, what occupies my mind just now is new ways to propel a motor car, be it electric, be it hybrid. Those new technologies are of great interest to me.
So do we see a Tata hybrid?
Yeah, actually, there will be a Tata electric car on sale in the UK next year. Next year meaning in the next few months. An Indica, but an electric Indica. And yes, you will see hybrids in our stable in course of the next couple of years. JLR will have a hybrid. And so will Land Rover. So these are interesting and intriguing technologies.
And the inevitable question, December 2012.
Yeah, it'll follow November 2012.
Right.
No,
And how's the search on?
the search is underway. I'm not on the committee. I've consciously decided to stay away from it. And, I think this is something that is going to emerge whenever it is. They have a list of people whom they will look at. And I think I keep saying to everybody, let them come forward with something. Let's not preempt, prejudge, or extrapolate.
But in 2012, do you see, as you hang up your boots in active management role, do you see Tata as a global company or an Indian company or a foreign company?
Certainly not a foreign company. It will always be an Indian company with an important international footprint. I would like to see it be considered as an international company of Indian origin.
As an MNC of Indian origin. And how do you intend to spend your time? I know your interest in flying and swimming and certainly dogs. That's an interest we share.
Yeah.
But you have plans?
No, I don't have any plans. Sometimes a case like that, you don't want to make any plans. I've said publicly that I'd like to continue my interest in design. And that's something I will think through.
And what's the point of retiring if you have to plan?
Good point. Good point. But, today, Sundays are the kind of day that you say, I don't want to make any plans. I would hope that applies after December.
So a week of 7 Sundays.
That's right. At least for a period of time, that'll be a luxury. Then it might drag, in which time I'll try to find something to do.
Ratan, you deserve it, so I hope you get your 7 Sundays, but I know there'll be 7 working Sundays.
Well, I hope not.
Working at something, and I'm sure we'll have many such opportunities to have a conversation with you. It's always such a privilege, because besides everything else, one learns so much.
Thank you.
Always inspirational talking.
Well, let me just tell you that you come to be somebody that I really respect because of the fact that you stand for what you believe in, and I've enjoyed every moment we've been able to share together. I hope that friendship will grow as we go forward.
Well, inshallah. Yes. Thank you so much.
Something I will cherish.
Thank you.
Thank you.